Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Today, let's talk about a pink phenomena that took the world by storm: Barbie. It was one of the most anticipated releases of 2023 alongside Oppenheimer, leading to the superior box office double feature of what we called the Barbenheimer. Barbie and Oppenheimer were polar opposites. While Barbie was all pink, the latter featured a darker palette. These two films will again go head to head for the Best Picture at the Oscars, contrasting world changing history with a nostalgic charm. Let's be honest, most of us grew up playing with Barbies. If you didn't play with one, your friends or sisters or cousins definitely had one. In a way, Barbie was about us reclaiming our childhoods back. As children enter into their preteens, they are conditioned to hate everything that is inherently feminine. And this includes the color pink. I remember getting mad at my mom for letting me decorate my room pink when I was 11 years old. Now that I'm older, I love the very same color. This film was a symbol of empowerment for all of us who had abandoned our childhood to be cool. We saw the theaters packed with people dressed in pink. The response that this film received was massive. Some people misunderstood the point of the film and blindly followed the trend, while others understood what the filmmakers were trying to create and even acknowledged its flaws. Barbie was marketed as a film about women's empowerment and feminism. But the question is, does it truly live up to that standard? When Barbie was first introduced to the world in 1959, she was truly revolutionary. Barbie made a statement. She told little girls that they could be more than just mothers. The opening scene of the movie reminds us of exactly this: Barbie's importance. The movie then takes us into Barbie Land, the seemingly perfect home to the seemingly perfect Barbies. Margot Robbie's Barbie is your stereotypical Barbie: tall, blonde, and most importantly, perfect. She wakes up in her perfect bed, has her perfect breakfast, and is off to start her perfect day. Barbie is the star of Barbie Land. Barbie can do everything. She's a doctor, the president, a pilot, a construction worker, everything. In Barbie Land, Barbies pursue their dream careers while Kens remain on the sidelines. As the movie progresses, it becomes clearer that the Kens in Barbie Land were supposed to mirror the women in the real world. Ken is almost invisible next to Barbie. One might say that this is how it is supposed to be, as the movie is titled Barbie after all. But the movie is about Ken in a lot of ways, and we'll talk about this in detail later. In the movie, Ken is portrayed as an innocent teenager who is called emotional on multiple occasions. This is an exact replica of what women in the real world have to hear. Women are constantly told that they get upset at the smallest things. This is deeply rooted in gender bias, where women's emotions are trivialized. Women are reprimanded for displaying the slightest hint of emotion and told to be under control. This is further emphasized by a scene in the court where one of the Barbies says,
"This makes me emotional, and I'm expressing it. I have no difficulty holding both logic and feeling at the same time, and it does not diminish my powers. It expands them."
This is a very straightforward reference to the stereotypes that women face in the real world. Women being too emotional has been used as an excuse to justify the lack of women in leadership positions for decades. In Barbie Land, Kens are always shown on the sidelines, putting the Barbies on a pedestal. They are the ones cheerleading when Barbies play beach volleyball. Ken's day starts only when Barbie looks at him, while Barbie doesn't even bother to look at him twice. She takes him for granted. Hell, she doesn't even know where he lives.
Where do the Kens stay?
I don't know.
Barbie's perfect life takes a hit when she has to enter the real world to meet her owner. Barbie and Ken notice a stark difference in the way they are being looked at. Ken seems to be in awe of what he's seeing and looks a lot more confident, while Barbie suddenly feels very conscious and her body language seems to close off. Ken mentions that for the first time he doesn't feel like he's being ogled at, while Barbie realizes that this is an unknown feeling she's suddenly experiencing. While everyone stares at the both of them, Barbie perceives this ogling as having a hint of violence, a feeling that many girls experience on a daily basis. Meanwhile, from Ken's perspective, which is now a male viewpoint, he merely feels admired. This is a scene where they straightforwardly show how a similar situation could be different for a man and a woman. Ken is now the main character in the real world, while Barbie is just another woman.
You're so beautiful.
Barbie continues to deal with this misogyny and catcalling in the real world, while Ken goes out to explore his newfound freedom. Ken is in awe of the amount of power that men hold in the real world and soon falls in love with patriarchy. To get a taste of this very patriarchy, Ken decides to apply for a job. He soon discovers that only patriarchy isn't enough and that he might need an MBA and a few more degrees. The man he meets tells him that nowadays patriarchy is dwindling and it is because women have too much power. This is in exact contrast to the situation in Barbie Land. Ken now loves being a man and makes it his mission to bring patriarchy to Barbie Land. He leaves Barbie to deal with her problems and leaves for home. Barbie Land is now Ken Land. Ken invades Barbie's dream house as well as all her careers. Kens are now in charge of everything, while the Barbies are just cheerleaders. After being in Barbie's shadow his whole life, he finally felt seen by others. He's constantly had to fight for Barbie's approval, praying for her to look at him. He's no longer Ken from Barbie and Ken, but just Ken. When Barbie comes back, she's going to be the one to fight for his attention, not the other way around. Ken has his fun being in power for a while, until the Barbies team up and take them down. Ken then goes through an emotional crisis again, where he realizes that while the way Barbie treated him was wrong, the way he lashed out and essentially set out to destroy her livelihood was wrong as well. During the first half of the movie, Ken is a representation of how women are stereotypically treated in the real world. Even though he almost destroys Barbie's entire livelihood at a point, he is still relatable. He is a flawed character. He accepts his mistakes and is willing to improve. However, it does seem like he goes back to square one after everything that happens. Even though Barbie teaches him to be self sufficient, he is still living under her shadow. Barbie, like Ken, also realizes that she's made some mistakes. She realizes that Ken is a person and she should treat him as such. Barbie, who is the queen of a world where she doesn't have to answer to anybody, also becomes much more human as the film progresses. Her experience in the real world helps her understand how Ken must have felt. She apologizes to Ken and tries to guide him on the right path. However, Barbie's character does not seem like it's as fleshed out as Ken's. Obviously, we are rooting for Barbie to get her dream house back, but at the same time, we do not despise Ken. Even through Ken's mistakes, people have grown to love him. We have a clear motivation of Ken's actions throughout the film, no matter how wrong they were. Most of Barbie's character development seemed to have happened in the Barbie land, where Sasha and her mom help her understand her flaws as well as her strengths. Towards the end of the film, when the Kens ask for a place in the Supreme Courts, the Barbies deny it immediately. If Barbie has seen what it's like to be a woman in the real world, then why didn't she fight for Ken here? I understand that the Kens are supposed to have the same amount of power as women in the real world, but what message are we sending here if the movie's main character isn't willing to fight for the representative women? One can argue that Barbie is still growing, as she only decides to be human at the end of the film. But what about Sasha and her mom? Would they not have acted as a catalyst for this development of hers? Somewhere along the 2 hours of the film, it feels like the writers lost the motivation to actually understand Barbie and the real world women around them. Barbie nails the deadpan humor and confronts stereotypes, it also misses the mark in some aspects. In the film, while Ken symbolically embodies aspects of real world womanhood, it is evident that the characters that play the actual real world women are not as fleshed out. For a film about women empowerment, it just falls a bit short. We will talk more about Sasha and her mom in part 2. So, stay tuned.